Hi guys, welcome back to Josh Oddie YouTube, and today we are going to be talking about the brand new AVODA W2 wedges, comparing them to the old W1s. Let's see the key differences and let's see which one you will pick. Not a great lie, pretty down in the rough. Let's see if we can get this one close. Oh my god, spin. Look at that! I cannot play that shot with any other wedge on the market. That was down in the rough. That's released out 5 feet, you know, from a down in the rough kind of lie. So if you ain't got a W1, get a W1 or a 2. So personally for me, I've got a mixture of the 2 wedges in my bag currently. I was playing all W1 before the W2 was released, but then as soon as the W2 came out, it was such a good wedge for me personally. They introduced this W2 as it had more of a mid bounce compared to the W1, which was a lower bounce wedge. So to simplify that a little bit and to put it in simple terms, for someone that's quite maybe shallow with their wedges, needs a little bit of help, this is quite a good wedge for them. And especially in the UK, off of these tight firm lies, the W1 is a dream. The W2 however is more of like a mid bounce, so this is a wedge that I could take anywhere in the world and kind of play with. But W1 is going to be a wedge that is for certain conditions, and especially in the UK, you know, I use it a bunch. So yeah, comparing the two, this is definitely a wedge I'd take all around the world, a mid bounce, and this is one that is kind of unique for certain playing conditions. Side by side comparison of the W1 versus W2, and straight off the rip, you know, you've got 2 wedges that do look completely different. W1 on your left here is a bit wider on the bottom sole, and then we've got W2 that's a little bit narrower, a bit more of a mid bounce kind of wedge. So as I say, these wedges are really made for different players, different conditions, and certainly, you know, one player might have more joy with a W2, one player might have more joy with a W1. So personally myself, I've loved introducing this wedge in the summertime in the UK because we get some firm, tight, bouncy lies. Like, just check the grass around me here, mum. You know, we get lies like this in mud that, you know, something with a bit more of a mid bounce is very, very hard to get onto the top of that ball. Whereas your low bounce wedge, you know, this is quite easy to put down, get behind the ball and really get underneath it. So you've got 2 wedges that just are completely different, and you should find a wedge that suits your game and what you need from a wedge. So on the website, W1, this wedge is designed for players who deliver the club with minimal to zero shaft lean at impact, ensuring a clean, precise strike. Optimized for firmer and tighter conditions. Hence why I have found way more joy with this W1 wedge in the summertime in the UK. But then, you know, you get the other side of it where I'm a player that returns it with a lot of shaft lean. I'm quite drivey with my wedges, come out pretty low, spinny. But, you know, all of a sudden I use a W1 from a little bit further away that might be a little bit of a softer lie. I don't get much joy from these wedges, but that's where W2 comes in. And now these are made for more of a mid bounce, you know, more of a neutral kind of delivery. And but for now we've got W2, which, like I say, is a wedge that you can take anywhere around the world, and you know, you're going to get much more joy from. So certainly for me, I've got a mixture of the 2. I run sand wedge and gap wedge in W2, and then I've got lob wedge in W1. Like I say, UK time, firmer, tighter lies. I might see myself, as the year gets later and the grounds get softer, I might introduce W2 in the lob wedge back in, just as, you know, the ground's changing and you need a different delivery. So a very important part of the game, and equipment can certainly help you if you get it done right. So let's hit some shots, let's get some numbers on the GC3, and we'll talk about some advantages of these new AVODA wedges. GC3 out, let's get some numbers for these wedges. something I'm constantly surprised about is how much spin I generate with these wedges. Because they're longer, what they have to do is reduce the head weight of this to get it a swing weight that matches within the set. So all of a sudden you get a wedge head that's lighter. That means you can put more force into it and it not go as far. What does that equal? More spin. And you know, since these have been in the bag, them front pins haven't been an issue for me. So I almost get too much spin, but that's where, you know, you mess around with wedge playing and you hit a gap wedge from 90 yards and just drive it in a little bit lower, reduce the spin. But you know, it's great to have that one that you can really spin up to that front pin. And a lot of the common things with the AVODA wedge is that it goes high with a lot of spin. I don't see much problem with that, but I think because we're all so used to the modern day 60 that comes in low, hot, with, you know, a bunch of spin, it takes one big skid. These come in high with even more spin, you know, and this is a lob wedge that you use as a lob wedge. A modern day lob wedge is almost like a hot lob wedge and it comes out low, drivey. These are made to play that high, soft, spinny shot, so they do a great job. Okay, so first up we've got the W2 lob wedge. Let's hit some into that back flag there. I mean, that is spinning. 7,300 backspin on that one. Let's just try and land this one a little bit further. Wow. 6,200 backspin. And this is only a 40-yard shot, you know, so it really shouldn't be getting that much spin. Wow. Another 7,000 backspin. So switching to W1 now, and as I say, you know, the advantages of having a combo length lob wedge is the fact that they're a little bit longer, the head weight's a bit lighter, so therefore I'm applying more force, generating more spin. I don't know why you wouldn't have a combo length wedge in the bag. Okay, W1. And you can see there straight away with ground interaction, a little bit more divot. So you can see the ground interaction here is completely different. We've got these divots here are W2, not as steep, shallow divots. And then straight away, W1 just gets into the turf. I like it for these tight lies, and it certainly helps me a lot get into the back of the ball. Sometimes I find with, you know, a mid bounce to high bounce wedge, especially off these tight summery lies in the UK, it's just bouncing way too much, and you know, you get that bottom groovy one that comes out finny. You don't get that with W1. And you know, straight away we're seeing a different ball flight with W1. I'm almost getting like a higher, not as much spin with the W1, and I just think that's turf interaction. I'm just not quite getting that spinny one. I'm almost getting that one that's getting into the back of the ball, popping it up, coming in soft because of the descent angle, not because of spin. So, you know, it's all just getting the wedge for the certain condition and who you are as a player, and, you know, finding something that suits your game. That one was nice. Higher launch, 5-3 spin. So one thing I've certainly noticed about W1 putting it back in the bag is when I address the ball with this wedge, it just sits so flush, especially for that open face. So certain shots like this off of, you know, a tight lie, the W1 makes it really, really easy to get to these kind of pin locations. Oof. You see how that soft that is landing on the green. Really tough shot here, especially off of a tight bare lie. And there we go. W1 doing its job. Now we've got W2 in the gap wedge. And you know, these wedges are still good for all kind of shots. More of a mid bounce. So we just drop some balls into this rough here, get some different lies that we might see out on the course. Ah, that one's stinky. And look at how easy that is coming out. I mean, I think because of the combo length, personally for me, I can just feel a bit more speed into these snaggy kind of lies, whereas before it's like, you know, I was running wedges that were like D4, D5, and I couldn't really play that like long, soft one, whereas these, because the head weight's so light, I'm feeling like I can almost be quite aggressive with these shots now, which is certainly something in rough you need, is a bit of speed to drive it through the ground. Go. Oh, right on the edge. What a shot. Like, that is coming down so soft. Cannot tell you. And you know, this isn't like fluffed up in the rough. This is like a terrible lie. Like, come on in here, man. Not a great lie. Pretty down in the rough. Let's see if we can get this one close. Open face. Just trust the W1. Oh my God, spin. Like, look at that! Out of that lie. I cannot play that shot with any other wedge on the market. Like, that was down in the rough. That's released out 5 feet, you know, from a down in the rough kind of lie. So, if you ain't got a W1, get a W1 or a 2. Check out that lie. If this gets on the green, we've had an unbelievable shot. I'm actually going to go like, I'm going to try to hit the soft one from this, which I don't know if it's even possible, guys. Go. Oh my God. Good effort with the W1. Probably take that in a tournament. But like you can see, I really do believe this wedge in the summer, especially in the UK, some of these lies we get, you know, you really need to get down onto the ball. And I just, personally for me, this is where this wedge has come in, and it's been so great to reintroduce to my bag and give me the versatility on the course that if I get a soft lie, you know, I can just open up a sand wedge in W2. I've got that mid-bounce wedge that, you know I'm not going to really worry about driving the hands because the divots are nice and shallow. Whereas W1, you know, we find ourselves in all different kinds of lie, especially in the UK. You know, I keep going on about it, but it really is like this, you know, on the course. It's burnt, it's brown, it's tough lies everywhere you go. So this W1's been an absolute godsend for me since putting it back in the bag, and hopefully I've showcased today how good it really is. Last but not least, bunker play. W1 in the bunker can be a little bit tough if you don't know how to use it. So if you're getting drivey in your bunker shots, hands coming in first, you're not great with the low point control, this wedge can be pretty tough to use. But W2 is going to give you more versatility and kind of a bit more leeway in the strike, I'd say. You can use the bounce and the sole of the club to get it through, versus W1 will just kind of drive and dig up. So if you don't know how to use this wedge in the bunker, it's going to be pretty tough. But for me personally, I'll kind of bring it forward in the stance, and I'll just make sure that I'm kind of not as much this way with the hands. I'll kind of make sure it's almost going the club head's almost overtaking the hands. So I'll see if I can hit one here. And there we go, popped up beautifully there. So turf interaction again, or bunker interaction should we say, quite deep. You know, you have to be really, really good with the low point control. Whereas W2, like I say, this is going to give you a bit more freedom in the strike. And I can be a little bit more aggressive with the hands here. And I've kind of drove that one a bit more because I know I've got the bounce on that wedge to get away with it, versus W1, I'm having to use it slightly different. Okay, I've got W1 back in my hands and I'm almost going to hit the same bunker shot as I did with W2 with W1, and we're going to see what happens, see if we get away with it. You can see we have there just about, but I do fear that if the sand's a little bit softer, certainly with W1 you will find a little bit of, you will come up against some problems. Whereas W2, I think if you do struggle with duffing it, that wedge is going to be a bit of a problem for you. And that's why W2 I'd recommend if you do need a bit of help with the bounce. And like I say, it kind of gives you a bit more freedom with the shot. W1 back again, and just slightly change the technique here. I love them. I absolutely love them. If you ain't got them, I don't know what you're doing, but you need a set of W1s or W2s in your bag. So, rounding that all up, AVODA do a great job on their website of telling you what wedge does a certain thing that you need it to do, and I hope I've showcased in this video the difference between the W1 and the W2. Personally for me, I run the mixture of the two, and that is something that I think gives me a lot more shots on the course, and ultimately that's what wins you golf tournaments and will improve your game, is having a lot more shots in your locker. If you go into something with only one shot that you can hit around the greens, that might hurt you. But that's why I introduced W1 back again into my bag, as I found that as the lies were getting firmer and tighter in the UK in the summertime, I just was struggling with W2. Reintroduced W1, and then firmer, tighter lies became a lot easier. But then I find myself in a position where, you know, I'm 60 yards away, the ground might be a little bit softer. I can't really get away with that because I am a drivey, steep player. That's where I need W2, and I reintroduce it in the sand wedge and gap wedge. And I don't find any problem of opening the face with a sand wedge. It's got 55 degrees of loft, so you know I can open the face a couple of degrees and hit it a bit higher if I want to. So versatility is great, and like I say, they do a great job on their website of showcasing what wedge does certain things. And I hope I have shown you today that, you know, they're both great wedges. You just need to find what works for you. Appreciate everyone watching. Like and subscribe if you're new. We'll see you all for the next one.